A very warm welcome to you, and thank you for choosing to spend a little of your time with us here. It is good to have your company. In this quiet corner, we believe that stories are not just for excitement and adventure, but can also be a gentle balm for a weary mind, a soft path leading to a place of rest. The tale we are about to share has been crafted with just such a purpose in mind. It is a quiet journey meant to gently unwind the day and invite peaceful sleep to settle softly upon you. And so, as you prepare to listen and let the world outside fade away, if you find a little comfort in what we have created, we would be so very grateful if you would like this story and subscribe to our channel to find more peaceful moments with us. Chapter 1. The Threshold of Stillness. One does not, it should be said, simply decide to find a place like the Stillwater Gardens. Rather, it is a place that finds you when the need for its particular kind of quiet has settled deep into your bones. For Corin, that need had become a soft but constant hum beneath the rhythm of their days. And so it was that on a day much like any other, while walking a path they had never walked before, they came upon a simple gate of pale, smooth wood, set into an old stone wall where no gate had any right to be. There was no latch, only a gentle pull, an unspoken invitation to a heart that was ready to listen. Stepping through felt less like a transition and more like a sigh. The air, which moments before had carried the crispness of an autumn afternoon, became suddenly still and wonderfully warm, wrapping around Corin like the softest of blankets. Every sound from the world they had just left was hushed, muffled by a profound quiet that was not empty, but full of a deep and abiding peace. Before them, a small cottage of gray, rounded stone sat nestled in a shallow dip of land, a thin curl of pale smoke rising from its chimney in a slow, untroubled spiral against a sky of soft, pearlescent light. The cottage door, made of the same pale wood as the gate, was already slightly ajar, a silent gesture of welcome. Inside, the air was scented with the comforting aroma of dried herbs hanging in fragrant bunches from the low, dark rafters, and the faint, clean smell of beeswax. A single wide shaft of gentle light slanted down from a high window, illuminating a slow, swirling dance of tiny dust motes, each one a golden spark in the tranquil air. The floor was made of wide, smooth planks of wood that felt solid and reassuring underfoot, and in the hearth, a small fire crackled with a sound as soft as a cat's purr, its embers glowing with a steady, welcoming warmth that seemed to reach out and touch Corin's tired spirit. It was a place that asked nothing, and in that offered everything. Corin felt a tension they hadn't even noticed they were carrying begin to dissolve, a tightly wound knot in their shoulders slowly unspooling. They shrugged off the heavy traveling cloak, letting it fall to a simple wooden chair, the sound of the thick fabric slumping against the smooth wood, the only punctuation in the room's gentle symphony. The feeling was one of profound relief, the simple, pure comfort of arriving in a place that already felt, in some strange and wonderful way, like coming home. Breathing in, the air felt different here. It was soft and easy, filling the lungs without effort, carrying with it that gentle herbal scent and the promise of rest. Cortazar Torin ran a hand along the cool, smooth surface of a small wooden table, its grain worn to a gentle sheen by the passage of many quiet years. Everything in the small room spoke of simplicity, of purpose, and of a deep, unhurried contentment. There was a single earthenware mug on the table, and a small lidded pot on the hearth, and it felt as though they had been left there just for them. From the window, Corin could see the beginnings of the gardens, a soft expanse of springy-looking turf and the dark, gentle shapes of unfamiliar plants. The light outside was unlike any they had known. It was not the direct light of a sun, but a diffused, all-encompassing glow that seemed to emanate from the very air, bathing everything in a soft, kind luminescence. There were no harsh shadows here, only gentle gradations of light and shade, as if the world itself had been smoothed of all its sharp edges. Corin felt a deep, warm stillness settle over them, the kind of stillness that comes after a long journey is finally over. The quiet hum of their own weariness was being replaced by a different hum, a lower, more resonant frequency that seemed to emanate from the stones of the cottage, from the earth beneath the floor, from the very air itself. It was the hum of the garden, a gentle, living vibration that promised a deeper kind of peace than they had ever dared to imagine. For a long, unmeasured while, Corin simply stood there, soaking in the profound quiet and the gentle, crackling warmth of the fire. The need to do, to plan, to move forward had simply evaporated, leaving behind a simple desire to just be, to be in this room, in this moment, feeling the solid floor beneath their feet and the soft air on their skin. It was the first true gift of the gardens, the permission to be still, and as the fire purred its gentle song, Corin felt their eyelids grow heavy, the first stirrings of a deep and peaceful rest. Chapter 2: The Language of Light and Leaf. After a sleep deeper and more restorative than any they could recall, Corin awoke to the same soft, pearlescent light filtering through the cottage window. The fire in the hearth was a bed of warm, glowing embers, and the small pot beside it was still pleasantly warm to the touch. Pouring the contents into the waiting earthenware mug revealed a pale, fragrant tea, its steam rising in a gentle curl, carrying a scent of flowers and honey. It tasted as comforting as it smelled, a warm, sweet balm that seemed to settle the very soul. It was with this gentle start that Corin felt ready to venture into the gardens. The path from the cottage was made of large, flat stones, gray and smooth, and already holding a gentle warmth, though the source of the garden's light remained a soft mystery. The ground on either side was a kind of springy, deep green turf that yielded softly underfoot, muffling their footsteps and adding to the profound sense of quiet. It was here, standing by a gently trickling rill of the clearest water, that Corin first saw Fen. They were sitting on one of the warm stones, their back to a gently leaning tree, simply watching the water as it made its unhurried way through the garden. Fen looked up as Corin approached, their expression one of simple, placid contentment. They offered not a word of greeting, but a small, warm smile and a gentle nod, a gesture that spoke of an easy welcome, entirely free of curiosity or expectation. In their hands, they held a mug identical to the one Corin had just used, and they gestured with it towards a spot on the warm stone beside them. Corin sat, and the two shared a long, comfortable silence, broken only by the soft trickling of the water and the gentle hum that seemed to be the garden's very breath. It was in this shared quietude that Corin's attention began to drift to the flora of the gardens, which was unlike anything they had ever seen. Along a low stone wall grew a tangle of thick, smooth vines, their leaves a pale, silvery green, and nestled within these leaves were soft, glowing pods of light, which pulsed with a slow, steady rhythm, like a field of gentle, sleeping heartbeats. The light they cast was warm and kind, throwing slow, dancing patterns onto the stones and the water, making the whole scene feel wonderfully, peacefully alive. Corin understood then that these were the glimmer vines, and their light was the garden's gentle pulse. Further along the path, great feathery ferns grew in lush clusters, their fronds a deep and soothing green. What was most curious was that they swayed slowly and constantly, even in the perfectly still air. Their movement created a soft, continuous rustling sound, a gentle shushing that was not quite a whisper, but more like the sound of many quiet, sleeping breaths. The sound of these murmur ferns was deeply calming, a constant, gentle reassurance that all was well, all was at peace. It was a sound that invited one's own breathing to slow and deepen in time with its peaceful rhythm. Corin felt their own body responding to the garden's gentle cues. The warmth of the stone seeped into them, a pleasant, heavy feeling of groundedness. Their breathing, which had so often felt shallow and tight in the world outside, had become slow and effortless, matching the soft rustle of the murmur ferns. Fen, seemingly sensing Corin's gentle wonder, reached out and plucked a small, thick-petaled flower that grew directly from the turf. It looked as though it were made of soft, cream-colored felt. They placed it gently in Corin's open palm. The flower, a hush petal, was surprisingly warm, a small, living ember of gentle heat. As Corin curled their fingers around it, it released the most delicate and comforting fragrance, a scent of warm milk and honey, and something clean, like fresh linen. It was a scent of pure, simple contentment, a smell from a half-remembered childhood dream of safety and warmth. Corin looked at Fen, who simply smiled their gentle, knowing smile, a look of shared appreciation for this small, perfect gift from the garden. No words were needed. The language of this place was not spoken, but felt. It was in the warmth of a stone, the soft light of a glimmer vine, the hushing sound of a murmur fern, the comforting scent of a hush petal. It was a language of pure sensation, a direct communication of peace from the living garden to a receptive heart. And as Corin sat there, sipping the last of their warm tea and holding the small, fragrant flower, they felt they were beginning, ever so slowly, to understand. Chapter 3. The Weaving of Quietude. The days in Oakhaven unfolded not by the clock, but by the slow, gentle tide of the garden's pearlescent light. There was a time for waking, when the glimmer vines pulsed with a softer, paler glow, and a time for rest, when their light deepened to a warm, honeyed gold. Corin found themselves moving with this rhythm naturally, without thought or effort. One afternoon, Fen led them to a part of the garden they had not yet seen, a small circular clearing of bare, dark, loamy earth, surrounded by a ring of smooth gray stones that were especially warm to the touch. Fen gestured for Corin to sit on one of the warm stones and then settled beside them, their posture one of complete, relaxed ease. For a long while, nothing happened. There was only the ever-present, gentle hum of the garden, the soft rustle of the distant murmur ferns, and the quiet shared breath of two beings sitting in perfect contentment. The air in the clearing felt particularly still, thick with a sense of peaceful potential, like a held note of music waiting to be released. Corin, who had spent a lifetime making things with their hands, felt the urge to do something, to help, to act. But Fen's calm was infectious, and soon Corin's hands rested, palms up on their knees, simply feeling the warmth of the air. It was then that Corin began to feel it more deeply, the resonant hum of the garden. It was not just a sound to be heard, but a vibration to be felt, rising from the ground, through the warm stone, and into their very being. It was a low, steady frequency of profound peace, and Corin felt it loosening something deep inside, a knot of old hurry and quiet worry they had carried for years. They closed their eyes, focusing only on that gentle vibration and the soft warmth of the air on their skin, their breathing falling into a slow, deep, and effortless rhythm. When Corin opened their eyes again, they saw it. In the center of the bare earth, a tiny sprout was pushing its way through the dark loam. It was no ordinary sprout. It was a luminous thing, glowing with a soft internal light, its two small leaves unfurling with an impossible graceful slowness. Corin watched, mesmerized, as it grew, not in sudden bursts, but in a steady, fluid unfolding, nourished not by water or sun in that moment, but by the shared peaceful stillness that they and Fen had created simply by being there. The very act of their quiet, contented presence was the catalyst for this gentle magic. Fen offered a soft smile, a look that conveyed a simple, profound truth. This was how the garden grew. It was woven from quietude. It was nourished by contentment. Every plant, from the tallest, gently swaying frond to the smallest glowing hush petal, was a manifestation of accumulated peace. The garden was not just a place of tranquility. It was made of tranquility. Corin felt a sense of wonder so pure and gentle, it felt like a soft warmth spreading through their chest. This was not a magic of power or command, but one of surrender and acceptance. Corin reached out, not to touch the new sprout, but to feel the air around it, which now shimmered with a faint, visible warmth. They looked at their own hands, the hands that had so painstakingly assembled tiny, intricate gears to measure the passage of time. Here, time was not measured, but inhabited. Here, growth was not forced, but allowed. It was a revelation so simple and so profound that it left Corin feeling lighter, as if a great, unseen weight had been lifted from their spirit. The need to control, to measure, to strive, it all seemed so distant now, a forgotten language from a faraway land. They sat there with Fen for what could have been minutes or hours, watching the small, luminous plant establish itself, its soft light pulsing in time with the distant glimmer vines. The experience settled deep within Corin, not as a memory, but as a feeling, a deep cellular understanding of the power of simply being. They had not done anything to make the sprout grow, and yet they had been essential to it. Their peace, their stillness, their quiet joy had become a part of the fabric of this place, woven into the life of the garden itself. As the pearlescent light began to deepen towards its honeyed evening hue, Fen placed a hand gently on Corin's shoulder, a simple, warm gesture of companionship. They rose together and walked back towards the cottage, the silence between them now filled with a new depth of shared understanding. Corin felt the hum of the garden not just around them, but within them, a gentle, resonant peace that had taken root in their own heart, right alongside the small, glowing sprout in the quiet clearing. Chapter 4. The Wellspring of Contentment. The rhythm of Corin's days settled into a slow, gentle cadence, as comforting and predictable as the pulsing of the glimmer vines. There was no need for plans, no schedule to keep, only the simple, quiet joy of existing within the garden's warm embrace. Each morning began with a warm mug of floral tea, its sweet scent a gentle awakening. The days were spent in simple, mindful activities, each one a meditation in itself. Corin found a profound sense of purpose, not in grand achievements, but in the quiet dignity of simple tasks performed with care. One of their favorite places became the sun-warmed pools, a series of shallow, circular basins carved from a single, vast expanse of smooth, dark stone. During the day, the pools soaked up the garden's gentle light, and the water held this warmth long into the cooler parts of the evening. Tending to them involved simply clearing fallen leaves from their surface with a soft fibered net, and ensuring the small channels that fed them with trickling water were clear of pebbles. The work was slow, repetitive, and deeply satisfying. Plunging their hands into the water of the pools was a remarkable sensation. The warmth was not a sharp heat, but a deep, penetrating comfort that seemed to seep directly into the bones, loosening every joint and soothing every muscle. Corin would often spend long moments just holding their hands in the warm water, feeling the gentle heat travel up their arms, a feeling of such complete and utter relaxation that it was as if they were melting into the garden itself. The water left a faint, pearlescent shimmer on their skin, a temporary and beautiful reminder of the garden's gentle magic. Thoughts of the world outside the pale wood gate had all but faded. They were not suppressed or forgotten, but had simply lost their weight, becoming like distant, half-remembered stories that belonged to someone else. The quiet anxieties and lingering sense of hurry that had once been Corin's constant companions were gone, replaced by a deep and abiding sense of contentment. Their mind, once a whirring collection of thoughts and plans, had grown quiet, content to simply observe the beauty of the present moment. One afternoon, while sitting by the pools, watching the light dance on the water's surface, Fen approached with 2 hush petals, handing one to Corin. Its familiar, comforting warmth and the delicate scent of milk and honey filled Corin with a quiet gratitude. "The garden is happy you are here," Fen said, their voice as soft as the rustling of the murmur ferns. It was the first time they had spoken more than a few words, and the simple sentiment landed in Corin's heart with a gentle, profound weight. "I am happy to be here," Corin replied, their own voice sounding different to their ears, softer, slower, more resonant. The conversation needed no more than that. The shared understanding flowed between them, as clear and gentle as the water trickling into the pools. They sat together, watching as the pearlescent light began to shift towards evening, the glimmer vines in the distance beginning to glow with a richer, golden hue, their slow pulses a visual lullaby. Corin noticed how their own body felt, the effortless rise and fall of their chest, the pleasant, heavy warmth in their limbs from the sun-warmed water, the complete absence of tension in the neck and shoulders. It was a state of physical relaxation so deep and complete, it felt entirely new. This was the wellspring of contentment, not a fleeting emotion, but a state of being, nurtured by the simple, restorative rhythms of this peaceful sanctuary. As twilight settled, blanketing the gardens in a soft, luminous glow, Corin felt a sense of belonging so complete, it was as if they, too, had been woven from the quietude of this place. The low, resonant hum of the garden was no longer just an external sound. It was the rhythm of their own peaceful heart. They were not just a visitor in the garden. They were a part of its gentle living song. Chapter 5. A Peace to Carry Forth. There came a day when Corin awoke with a new feeling, not of restlessness, but of completeness. The deep, restorative sleep in the quiet cottage, the warm sustenance of the floral tea, the gentle rhythms of the garden, they had all worked their slow, quiet magic. The weariness that had settled so deep in their bones felt like a distant memory, replaced by a calm, steady energy. It was not a call to leave precisely, but a quiet understanding that the peace they had found here was now a part of them, ready to be carried out into the world beyond the gate. They walked through the garden one last time, not with a sense of farewell, but with a deep and quiet appreciation. They ran a hand over the smooth, cool bark of a tree trunk, its surface wrapped in the gentle, pulsing light of a glimmer vine. They stood among the murmur ferns, closing their eyes and letting the soft, hushing sound wash over them, committing its peaceful cadence to memory. Every sensation was a treasure, a beautiful, simple truth they could now hold within them. When Corin reached the clearing where they had watched the luminous sprout grow, they saw it had become a small, thriving plant, its leaves glowing with a soft, steady light. It stood as a quiet testament to the peace they had found and contributed to this place. A feeling of profound gratitude welled up in them, a thankfulness so pure and simple it needed no words. The garden had given them a gift beyond measure, the gift of their own stillness. Fen was waiting for them at the pale wood gate, holding a single, perfect hush petal. As before, their expression was one of complete, peaceful understanding. There were no goodbyes to be said, for nothing was truly being left behind. Fen simply held out the glowing flower, its petals emitting their familiar, comforting warmth and the delicate scent of milk and honey. Corin took it, its gentle heat a reassuring presence in their palm. A little of the garden's quiet to hold on to, Fen said softly. Corin looked from the flower to Fen's kind, serene face and simply nodded, a smile touching their own lips. "Thank you," they whispered, the words feeling full and complete. They looked back at the gardens, at the soft, pearlescent light, the gently swaying ferns, and the warm, welcoming stones. It was a perfect picture of tranquility, a place of impossible, gentle beauty. And now, a part of that beauty lived within them. With a final gentle nod to Fen, Corin turned and placed a hand on the pale, smooth wood of the gate. They felt its familiar, unspoken pull, but this time it was a gentle push, a soft encouragement to step forward. As they passed through the threshold, the world shifted back. The air grew cooler, crisper, and the sounds of a gentle breeze in the autumn leaves returned. But the profound quiet of the garden did not vanish. It remained, a deep, resonant stillness at their very core. They opened their hand and looked at the hush petal. It continued to glow with its soft, warm light, its gentle fragrance a constant, comforting reminder. The peace of Oak Haven was not confined by its stone walls or its simple gate. It was a peace to be carried forth, a quiet light to hold against the hurried shadows of the world. Corin felt it in the slow, easy rhythm of their own breathing, and in the gentle hum they could now feel in their own chest. The journey ahead was unknown, but for the first time in a very long time, Corin felt no anxiety, only a quiet curiosity. They had learned the language of stillness, the art of simply being. With the warm hush petal in their hand and the garden's peace settled in their heart, they took a soft, easy breath and stepped forward, their footfalls on the path, now slow, deliberate, and wonderfully, perfectly calm.